Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 50th Annual Meeting and Luncheon of the American International Automobile Dealers Association.
You know the story. Imports that many wanted to drive, while others wanted to drive them out of the market, until a few heroes gathered in Washington to give their dealers a voice. Today, after 50 years and dozens of brands, the voice of AIADA is stronger than ever, with one powerful mission: keeping global trade free through an unparalleled legacy of leadership.
I can't imagine what it was like 50 years ago when a group of Volkswagen dealers got together, and I mean, it was really that group of dealers versus the world. We're so fortunate. I mean, we really are fortunate that we have the structure that we do.
I take such great pride in the fact that my family's been involved with AIADA for all 50 years, just trying to convince people that free trade supports America.
The only thing that I see that's different is the fact that we have grown. When we first started this endeavor, it was 15 members that started Volkswagen dealers. Now we have grown as an organization to where we have strength in numbers.
What my dad instilled in me from AIADA is just the importance of being involved, being in front of those legislators and realizing that they really don't get our business.
While also being in front of each other, growing and managing change with commitment and care. In 2006, AIADA entered the modern era with Cody Lusk as its new president and CEO. Outgoing chair Don Beyer led that difficult transition.
I guess I'm proud of being part of a small group of people that were still alive in the morning. You know, a year ago at the annual meeting, we proclaimed that AIADA is back. But it was John Hawkins' leadership in 2007 that really proved that.
We saw many things come alive that we thought might have been dead. We saw dealers get active. We saw our old friends on the Hill come back and say, gee, we're happy to have you engaged in the legislative process.
In February of 2008, when I took the position as chairman of AIADA, I had no idea how difficult the year was going to be. But for whatever reason, AIADA is in the best, most responsible area it could be in today for the dealers of America.
And you know what? Our members are more loyal now than they have been in the past because of the relevance of our message to them.
2010 has gotten everybody's attention, and you need to get out there and you need to make your future and carve the way for yourself and your industry for 2011.
Having navigated beyond the Great Recession, AIADA now saw long-pending trade deals finally take shape.
It's an experience I will treasure the rest of my life. The Korean Free Trade Agreement was monumental. When you have trade between countries, you have better understanding and better feelings amongst people.
Being in this chairman's position the last year has given me a greater appreciation of just how the association protects the international dealer community.
And one thing that I do hope is that the next generation of dealers realizes that they too can be a part of making history. All of us trying to work for the common goal of making sure all of our issues were being addressed and heard in Washington.
We work closely with NADA and our manufacturer finance companies and independent banks to really understand what the CFPB meant to our business.
There were clearly some big issues that I put on the top of my list. The youth of America is out there representing us now. They're getting it, and our industry is in good hands moving forward. It's certainly united.
It's critical for us in our business to sell and service cars and not to be focused on Washington as dealers. So that's the main benefit that AIADA provides all its members.
We were tested as an organization from our heart to our soul on the BAT tax, or border adjustment tax. And we hit the ground running with a fly-in where we had hundreds of members fly in to Congress.
AIADA has been very effective in helping maintain the integrity of our industry, protecting our best interests up on the Hill in Washington, D.C.
And living just one day at a time and figuring out what we have to do tomorrow to just sustain this amazing group going into the future.
A future with one mission, touching lives and livelihoods in every corner of our country.
It's very special to have previous board of directors from AIADA here. Main reason is the common focus, the common voice, and the legacy that they've all left behind that hopefully we carry forward for another 50 years.
And there's no end in sight. We're going to keep going.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your AIADA President and CEO, Cody Lusk.
Thank you. Hey, we're 50. How about that? Seriously, I want to thank all of you for coming out here today as we celebrate our 50th year defending dealers in Washington, D.C. You know, walking out there, it's so great to see so many familiar faces, but also some new ones as we take a look back on what we accomplished the last half century, but most importantly, we take a look at what's ahead for the future of our industry. We got a busy program. We're going to jump right into it. But before I do, I want to take a moment and recognize some of our special guests. First of all, our great friends and hosts at NADA. Thank you guys for another fabulous show. I also want to thank Mary Hannigan and Joe O'Brien and the whole AFIT team for what you do. Critical year coming up, and we need everybody participating on their behalf. So thank you all for what you do. Also, great friends at NAMAD and Damon do a wonderful job on helping us all navigate Washington and some of the things we get through, so thank you to them as well. Finally, our manufacturing friends and our affinity partners. We couldn't do what we do defending dealers without your support and your help. I did want to have a special shout out. We turned 50 today, but we have a partner, CNA National, that we've been with for 25 years. So I did want to give a special shout out and thank them for their support. You know, it's hard to look back and see, realize 50 years ago, we were created by a group of Volkswagen dealers concerned about the threat of anti-trade legislation was targeting their stores. Now, while much has changed about our industry, including this massive new economic footprint that we have in the U.S., the threat of protectionism from inside Washington is more real than ever. Just in the last few years, our industry fought off a dangerous border adjustment tax, weathered the negotiation of several key trade agreements, and faced the unbelievable scrutiny of the Department of Commerce's 232 national security investigation and threat of new auto tariffs on our products. After 50 years, I'd like to say that our industry is out of the woods on the trade front, but sadly, that's not the case. But that's the reason we do what we do every day on your behalf in Washington, with the help of so many dedicated dealers like you. We've got your back in Washington so that you can do the hard work of building your businesses at home. Now, moving into today's program, we've got a lot to get to, including the introduction of our 2020 chairman, Jason Quarter. Then, in keeping with our 50th anniversary, we're going to honor some of our special past chairs who happen to be here with us today. And then finally, we'll hear from our keynote speaker, Honda's Henio Arcangeli, later on. But first, let's talk about our 2019 chairman, Howard Hakes. And boy, is there a lot to talk about with Howard. It's no secret that Howard earned some serious frequent flyer miles between LA and DC over the past year. I can't tell you, I would call him, Howard, can you be here? I'm there. He was a tireless supporter for all of you, leaving no stone unturned on Capitol Hill, the White House, any place else he could find a member, find a manufacturer, anybody he could talk to, Howard wanted to talk to. But I have to highlight, just a few weeks ago, we were in Howard's happy place, the White House lawn, supporting President Trump as he signed the new USMCA agreement into law. Let's watch the video and see how Howard's year went.
50 years. They began in Washington under the leadership of import dealers who saw their businesses at risk and ended up being led by a dealer with a unique understanding of how Washington works.
It's been great to see how far we've come, but how we do the same thing that we did 50 years ago, just fight for the dealer.
Howard Hakes. I mean, I've watched Howard on the Hill.
High energy, tenacious, and when he gets onto something, he doesn't let go.
And our ability to just, on a dime, make a decision to go forward with a plan is like no other organization I've ever been involved with.
To live in California and to fly cross country as many times as he did was very important.
Being a Republican in California, that can't be the easiest thing in the world.
In my opinion, including myself as past chairman, he's been one of the strongest advocates we could have in Washington because he's a bulldog if there's ever been one.
27 years ago was my first AIADA summit in Washington, D.C., where my boss, Fritz Hitchcock, became chairman that year. And ever since that, I've been coming back and so honored to be chairman this year.
He was born for this job, truly. He lives and breathes politics.
He's involved. I mean, he's the epitome of really what getting involved with AIADA is all about.
I've really tried to get dealers to talk to their legislators about whatever issues that were in front of them and see what help they can get.
Howard is not afraid to get in front of anybody and to get out in front of an issue. He's a pretty fearless guy.
I think I'd like to be remembered as a dealer that tried to get others involved with the process of government and what it can do to help their dealership and their dealership employees.
And I just sit back and I'm in awe because he can just pick up the phone and call dealers and be like, hey Jeff, this is Howard.
Dealer involvement is huge in our industry, and getting that 80% of the dealers that aren't involved to get engaged at a local, state, or federal level is so important to our industry, and we just got to keep on pushing the rock up the hill, but that is something that I will continue to work on.
Howard could be a chair every year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Howard Hakes.
Wow. Thank you, Cody, for that kind introduction. With our industry being actively investigated as a national security threat last winter, I knew I was in for a bumpy ride when I accepted the chairman's gavel. But I had no idea how much my year in this role would cement my belief in my fellow dealers and all we can achieve when we work together. As a Toyota dealer, I've been so impressed by Toyota's support of AIADA over the years. So before I move on, I want to take a moment to personally recognize and thank Jim Lentz, who has been the driving force behind that support. Jim is retiring this spring, but he leaves behind a legacy of engagement that has established Toyota as a leader on Capitol Hill, as well as an indispensable partner to dealers. I feel fortunate that I've had the chance to work with Jim over many years, and I want to take this opportunity to remind him, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of an open highway. Congratulations, Jim. Please stand up. Dealers have had a lot to cheer about in 2019. It was a pleasure to join manufacturers like Jim on the Hill this past fall to discuss the disastrous consequences of new tariffs of the auto industry. And it was great, one of my greatest moments as chairman, when so many of you joined me in Washington, D.C. in April for some good old-fashioned shoe leather advocacy during our fly-in. Together, we told Congress just how detrimental auto tariffs would be on our business, and we were successfully to stave them off, at least for the time being. We also cheered, as Cody mentioned, when the president signed a new trade agreement with Mexico and Canada just last month. While dealers saw a great deal of success in 2019, it's telling that 50 years after our founding, AIADA is still fighting these trade battles in Washington, D.C. It's clear that our existence as an association is more crucial now than ever. And that's why I'm so confident as I pass this role to Jason Corder that we are in great hands. No matter what AIADA's 50th year brings our way, economic challenges, political chaos, or new trade threats from inside the Beltway, Jason has the knowledge, the experience, and the insight to lead us. He just needs the same resources I had, your support, and AIADA's top-notch advocacy team. My time as chairman may be at an end, but I have no intention of going away. In 2020, I will still be right alongside you, fighting for this industry we all love, and frankly, that puts food on so many of our tables and has allowed us to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Now, please enjoy your lunch.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage AIADA Chairman Howard Hakes.
In our 50th year as AIADA members consider the strength of our legacy and the weight of our commitment to an entire industry, it is fitting that we call a third-generation dealer to lead us. Jason Corder's family name has been synonymous with auto sales in Seattle for longer than AIADA has been in existence. His knowledge of our business is a mile deep, and his energy to drive our association forward is boundless. Let's learn more about AIADA's 2020 chairman, Jason Corder.
Since 1970, AIADA has driven its message of free trade to those who make the rules, those who work under them, and those who play by them. In 2020, that legacy of leadership continues into the next generation of its journey, embodied by Jason Corder.
My story begins really around the dinner table when I was 5-6 years old. My father started our Honda franchise in 1979. I'm third generation. My grandfather was a Buick dealer in our community. One of the important things that my father always taught me is, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? And how I got involved was following in the footsteps of my father and people that I believed in and looked up to. These were people that I wanted to become. I've always known about the Munganess family, and my dad always talked highly of them. And as I watched Mr. Munganess, and now we have the award named after him, and then I see how Ray was involved, and their sons Dave and Kurt as well. I said, that's someone I want to be like. That's consistent. They give back to the community. They're there for their fellow dealers. They're there for their manufacturer. They're there with their partners, and to me, that mattered. As chairman, what's important to me for 2020 is to kind of go back on my roots of how I got involved I was a part of a next generation program back in about 2011. The mission has been constant for 50 years. It's easy, free trade, focused in on making sure that we can survive in this country by educating who all the legislators are on why we matter. We're still talking about tariffs, how we might be a threat to the auto manufacturing world, and that's ridiculous. We're talking about devastating, closing down business. This is why you want to get involved. What we stand for still today is the common voice of making sure that we're heard, that free trade is our mission, and that our customers and our employees count on this getting done. The key is making sure that we're ready to deploy all of our resources, which we will, and we will always mobilize to make sure we defend free trade. I would say as we celebrate our 50th year, I'm honored to be the chair.
And we're honored to recognize the dealer who will continue AIADA's legacy of leadership into the next half century, Jason Corder.
Wow. Thank you, Howard, for that kind introduction. Howard's chairmanship in 2019 was one of the most eventful in AIADA's 50-year history, and that's saying something. Some dealers might have been overwhelmed, but Howard was in his element. He was relentless in his fight to protect dealers against dangerous tariffs, and he was tireless in his willingness to jet from LA to DC at the first sign of trouble. Really, he's probably clamoring for one more year. Let's have another round of applause for Howard. Watching Howard at work over the last year, one thing quickly became clear to me. I have some big shoes to fill. For me, that's not an unfamiliar feeling. See, I'm a third-generation auto dealer. Many of you know my dad, Al Corder. He's here with us today. Along with my mom, breast cancer survivor, Linda. Will you please stand up, Mom? Dad was a former AIADA board member and a Honda dealer. My grandfather was also in the business. He owned a Buick store in Auburn, Washington. One of my fondest memories is as a kid, sitting on the turnstiles on his lot on a busy Saturday, and then later cleaning out the parts bin, not so fun, at my father's store. Cars are in my blood, and thanks to my family, I understand what it means to have a legacy to uphold. My parents aren't the only ones here supporting me in AIADA today. My wife and high school sweetheart, Courtney, and daughter Grace are here. We also have key managers, as well as our GMs, Mike Levine and Brian Slish, and of course, my sisters, Carrie and Kelly, who are both my partners in the business. They all came a long way, and it wasn't to hear me talk. They get enough of that back in Seattle. They are here today because Big Al has installed in all of us the value of AIADA and its importance in preserving our business. My thanks to each of you. I also want to thank our affinity partners joining us here today. These are truly exceptional companies that we have hand-selected to work with us for our members' benefit. And their presence is a reminder of what a large reach auto retailing has and how much we can accomplish when we unite as an industry. AIADA originally showed up on my radar when I was in high school. As the first Acura dealer in the country, my dad knew very well all the ways protectionist trade policies can hurt a bottom line. He jumped at the chance to be involved in AIADA, and he used to bring me with him to the annual spring fly-in in Washington, D.C. As a tag-along teenager, I was a little bit in awe of AIADA's members back then. Part of me still is. International nameplate dealers in the 70s and 80s truly had vision. They saw an opportunity in VW and other import brands, and they were willing to take big chances in order to build something new. More than that, they were willing to fight to protect what was theirs. That's why the apathy I see in some of today's dealers is so head-scratching. We have more to lose than ever. Past generations of dealers took a chance on import brands. Since then, those brands have exploded in value. International nameplate dealers today employ 578,000 Americans. We have a payroll of $34 billion. We have 56% of the US market share, and nearly half of the cars and trucks we sell are built right here in the United States. As my daughters would say, we're killing it out here. But that also means we have more at risk than ever before. For that reason, it is my mission to make sure that in 2020, AIADA channels some of the spirit and vision of its original founders from 1970. This year, we must serve as a constant reminder to both parties on Capitol Hill that dealers have a big influence in their districts, and we're not the kind of enemy you want to make in an election year. We aren't going to sit back and watch federal taxes and financial regulations chip away at the businesses we built, the jobs we created, and the communities we serve. We aren't going to take a wait-and-see approach on tariffs. We aren't going to ignore issues like energy, labor, and legal reform. Instead, we will fight to protect affordability for our customers. We will work to involve new dealers and next-generation dealers in our efforts. And we will strive to ensure that there isn't a single international nameplate dealer in the U.S. who hasn't shaken his or her representative's hand in 2020. If you think nothing gets done in Washington, I challenge you to join us in May at our fly-in. Taking part in old-fashioned shoe leather advocacy works. However, that doesn't mean AIADA's vision for 2020 is looking backward. We're also going to look ahead and continue to lead the associations in our innovative use of technology and media to make it easier than ever for dealers to get involved. As AIADA's 2020 chairman, I want to celebrate our accomplishments over the past 50 years. I also want to help usher this association into a new era, one where dealers are more involved without being more pressed for time, one where members of Congress acknowledge our investment in this country and the significant and positive contributions our stores make in their districts, one where our products aren't national security threats and our livelihoods aren't used as leverage in some global game of chicken. The next 50 years will surely see giant leaps in technology, shifts in society's structure, and changes to our daily transportation needs. But no matter what, dealers will survive, dealers will thrive, and dealers will continue to serve their customers. We will manage those things because we aren't afraid to look far into the future and take chances on what we see there. Working together, I am confident that we can achieve all these goals and more. And as always, thank you for your support.
Clearly, we're in good hands for 2020. How about that? Hey, stay up here for a few minutes with me. We're going to have Jason who's going to stay up here for a few more minutes as we highlight some of the special people who helped us get to our 50 years. And we've had a lot of men and women who have chaired this organization for the past 50 years, mentors of mine, a lot of them are mentors to Jason, who literally built this association from the ground up. We invited some of them to be here with us today, and we're honored and delighted to have so many AIADA legends in one room. So at this moment, can we ask all of our former board chairs to please stand up, be recognized, please? Come on, Jamie. There we go.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. AIADA is stronger because of your leadership, more agile because of your vision, and more accomplished thanks to your unflagging commitment to fighting the good fight in Washington, D.C. Your fellow dealers look up to you, not because of the awards you've won or the sales targets you've hit, but because of the way you've balanced the needs of your own business with the pressing demands of our entire industry. You are an inspiration to young dealers just starting out, and a reminder to all dealers that our strength lies in our unity. I am honored to follow in your footsteps for our 50th year. Thank you for all you have done for AIADA. Let's have one more round of applause for our past chairs. Thank you. It's time now to introduce this afternoon's keynote speaker, Senior Vice President of American Honda Motor Company, Ennio Arcangeli Jr. Ennio joined American Honda in 2017, and he has since been relentless in his pursuit of growth and success for Honda and its dealers. With his engineering mind and goal-oriented leadership style, Ennio is going places and taking Honda with him. Please join me in welcoming Ennio Arcangeli to our stage.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, everybody here, and good afternoon. It's a real honor to be here with you as AIADA celebrates its 50th anniversary. From everyone at Honda, I want to offer our sincere gratitude to our friends at AIADA for a half-century of leadership and hard work on behalf of our industry. Congratulations. So speaking of celebrating 50 years of achievement, this year Honda is also marking 50 years of automobile sales in America. And I've enjoyed hearing many special and meaningful stories from our dealers getting started with Honda in America. So I'm pleased to be here during this shared anniversary year. I also want to thank Howard Hakes for his powerful voice for dealers and international automakers in his year as chairman. Thank you for your strong leadership, Howard. And to all of the former chairmen who are honored today and for what you have contributed to our industry and AIADA, congratulations and thank you. Finally, I also want to add my personal welcome to your new chairman, Jason Corder. Jason is a terrific Honda dealer and a real leader in his community, and I know he will be a very effective leader for AIADA as well. Congratulations. I have to say, what impresses me and something I never lose sight of is that all of you here today aren't just successful business people. You are pillars of your individual communities. You provide good jobs for hundreds and thousands of people and positively impact so many lives and places you do business. I appreciate the incredible value you contribute across the country. And thank you and congratulations for what you do. Your leadership as individuals is really a microcosm of a larger story as international companies. From the beginning, we were the disruptors and the agents of change. We can't lose sight of how this served to differentiate our brands and your businesses from other corporations. Together, we helped advance this industry over the course of the past 50 years. It's really been a half-century of leading change. From new technologies that advance fuel efficiency and safety, to leading the industry in an era of higher quality products, and ironically becoming a champion of building those products right here in America. And collectively, these brands represented by all of you are responsible for almost half of the cars and trucks made in America today. Think about all the jobs and investment that go into doing this. We really have a great story to tell, and I encourage you to be vocal in telling our story. Because despite 50 years of activities like this on behalf of your businesses, we still have a lot of work to do ahead of us. The successor to NAFTA has become law, and while USMCA doesn't roll off your tongue quite as easily as NAFTA, it does return some sense of stability to our business going forward. At the same time, the threat of new tariffs remain, and the potential for additional restrictions under Section 232 is still out there. So we all need to remain vigilant and vocal, reminding people that what a huge role our businesses play in the economic and social well-being of this country. As we enter this new decade, our industry remains one of the largest, and I would say the most exciting of this country. Together, we drive over $1 trillion of economic value a year into the U.S. economy and employ almost 10 million people. I could go on, but I think the Center of Automotive Research put it best when they said, without the auto sector, it would be difficult to imagine manufacturing surviving in this country. People still care a great deal about the products you sell. And looking at our industry, sales have topped over 17 million units 5 years running. And while the forecasts call for some cooling off this year, even the most conservative estimates put us in the 16.5 million range, which is really a large business to operate in. So now let me shift for a moment to a view of what's ahead of us. Looking into the future with electrified, autonomous, and connected vehicles and ride sharing on the horizon, I believe we're going to see more change coming in the next 10 years than we've seen in the past 50. No one has a perfect crystal ball on what the future holds, and it's important to understand that it's not all going to happen overnight. But let me share some perspectives from where I sit on what change is going to look like in the future ahead. First, I believe it's important that we all think about this from the viewpoint of not just managing change, but leading it, in order to capitalize on the opportunities that are in front of us. And that begins with a critical part of our business today, the passenger car. There's no arguing that about 75% of today's industry is light truck, and it's a growing part of all of our business. But I believe passenger cars still matter, and in fact represents a smart strategy for today and tomorrow. Why? Well, first, let's just do the math. Assuming passenger cars make up 25% of a 17 million unit industry, that's over 4 million cars per year, which is big business. On top of that, when you consider that several competitors have announced intentions to pull out of the passenger car market entirely, this provides us with an even bigger opportunity to grow our volume and market share. But cars really matter for another fundamental reason. It's called the future. Research shows that almost half of first-time buyers are buying passenger cars. And for Gen Z, that jumps up to 70%. So what a better way to introduce a new buyer to your brand, and after they've had a very good experience for 3 or 5 years, they're going to come back to your dealership and likely buy a brand new car. And looking at international brands as a whole, we all rely more on passenger cars than the industry average, with many of you with over 40% passenger car. So this is an important strategy for our current and future success. Now let me speak a little bit about ride sharing. Reading the many news headlines over the past 2 years, you probably would have thought that car ownership would have been a thing of the past, and we all would have arrived today in a driverless shared vehicle. But that view has begun to change of late. In the US, the idea of shared vehicles is an issue contained largely to urban environments, where car sharing or even relying on Uber or Lyft is more seen as a convenience or a certain type of lifestyle. But considering the needs of the majority of today's car buyers, the notion of a shared vehicle for personal use remains daunting at best. So I believe vehicle ownership will continue to be the dominant means by which the vast majority of consumers in the US engage with our products for some time to come. Now, one new technology direction that obviously is here, is growing, is electrification. How fast and how far is open for debate. Every automaker has its own strategies and ideas based on their business objectives, product portfolios, and related regulatory obligations. At Honda, our thinking is driven by the focus on CO2 emission reduction. This is our objective. And we continue to pursue a portfolio approach with this that includes hybrid, plug-in hybrids, battery electric, and fuel cell technologies for vehicles tailored to different markets and different consumer needs. We see industry growth in battery electric vehicles, particularly in the US, as incremental and tied substantially to continued advances in battery cost, range, and recharging convenience. For the near term, however, we believe hybrid electric technology is the best opportunity to more quickly achieve volume growth of electrified powertrains and reduce CO2 emissions. With hybrids, we can deliver the consumer significant gains in fuel efficiency and lower CO2 emissions at a reasonable cost, without any compromise to overall vehicle performance or utility. I think it's also worth noting that international brands have a great track record in this area. In fact, in the most recent EPA ratings, international brands hold the top 10 spots in both highest fuel economy and lowest CO2 emissions. That's another great point for all of you to make. From an OEM perspective, I can tell you the cost issues of electrification are significant. And that's also serving to drive alliances and even mergers, as both OEMs and suppliers look to share the high cost of development. For instance, as Honda prepares for an electrical future, we have relationships with General Motors that includes both fuel cell and battery electric technology agreements. However, these trends and collaboration on technology are not, if not executed properly, can make it increasingly challenging for OEMs to clearly differentiate themselves in the marketplace on the basis of product alone. I'm not suggesting we're on our way to becoming a commodity business, but we have to acknowledge that differentiating our products will become more challenging in the future. Regulations are driving key aspects of product design and technology. Fuel economy requirements aren't simply about electrifying vehicles. It requires aerodynamic design for certain vehicles like crossovers and SUVs, and has led to similarities in design and styling. Take a look here. Although the wheel designs have been removed, common shapes, styling, and other features make it a challenge to quickly pick out the products you sell from this lineup. I also believe the growth of electrification can have an impact on dealer profitability, especially in the areas of fixed ops, due to the risk of elimination of routine maintenance and other service needs related to internal combustion engines. My advice here to you is don't panic. Instead, think about what you can do to take a larger share of the business that's out there. I believe there's a real opportunity here for dealers to better compete with third-party repair facilities, which presently service approximately 2/3 of the vehicles today. And as vehicles become even more technical with advanced electrification, autonomous and connected technologies, customers will need your business, and for longer than the 3-year period of most new cars. We can do this by demonstrating that your dealership staff and capabilities are the best place for their service and maintenance needs. Like other OEMs, we're looking to help our dealer partners capitalize on these opportunities, using technology to advance the human relationship with the customer and generate new business opportunities. A good example are connected car systems like HondaLink and AccuraLink that enable us to communicate directly with customers in their car about vehicle health issues and service reminders. Owners using connected services are more service loyal and show better retention. And we're seeing a dramatic increase in digital service appointments from our connected systems. This shows a promising direction to build a closer relationship with customers that will get you more of their service business and protect your overall profitability. So looking at the overall parts and service business, perhaps the size of the overall parts and service pie will shrink a little bit with electrification, but by taking action today, there's a real business opportunity to obtain a far, far bigger slice of that pie in the future, which should be very lucrative for both of us. Now, shifting to the other big change that's coming, autonomous vehicles, here again I see another gradual shift over time. For the near term, especially in the consumer space, what we're looking at is continued advances in more highly automated driver-assistive technologies. And while the degree to which automakers talk about these technologies varies, I believe there's now a fairly common understanding that we're many years away from the safe deployment of a driverless capability for your personal vehicle, meaning no one at the steering wheel. For the future, with higher levels of automation such as SAE Level 5 and beyond, people will be able to do so much more in their cars without the responsibility of holding onto the steering wheel. And I'm not talking about just the ability to relax or converse, but using big in-dash screens to remain fully engaged in your digital lives. Of course, this is not only about a new customer experience, This will be an absolute game changer for the industry as well, with the opportunity to deliver the content people enjoy right to their vehicles and to monetize that experience. This is why you see large companies today like Apple, Alphabet, Google working to enter the mobility space. They see the opportunity to extend their reach to the place where people still spend a lot of their times in the vehicle. And this brings me back to the purpose of our business, which is to provide people with mobility. And even as the technologies we'll use today to accomplish will change, the competitive battlefield will remain the same. That means we all must work to advancing the customer relationships and brand loyalty that will enable us to maintain strong and profitable businesses into the future. Case in point, for the past year or more, the headlines have alleged that millennials weren't interested in cars or driving. But fortunately, that doesn't appear to be the case. In fact, the latest data suggests that millennials are behind the big increase in licensing of new drivers, which is now at a 40-year high. Now, that doesn't mean that expectations aren't changing, because these buyers, especially younger buyers, do expect more from their ownership experience and their brands. We've all heard the raised on Amazon and Google speech, but this isn't just about younger buyers, because we all like to shop online and for good reasons. It's quick, it's easy, and it's very responsive. And we become loyal to brands that can provide this service. Again, technology has a big role to play here in strengthening the human relationship. For instance, a number of you are already utilizing third-party help with online retailing. But I think this approach risks taking a big element of the customer relationship out of your control. To address that, at Honda, we're developing our own, what we like to call digital customer journey tools. The idea is to help our dealers compete more effectively in the market while delivering an integrated and personalized buying experience to the consumer. In many respects, this is a new digital battlefield, and I encourage you to be on the side of leading change. As OEMs and dealers, we need to be investing in one another to build strong brand power. Our customers see the brand through your business. This makes you a part of our brand story. And in my experience, dealers with a deep connection to the brand, reflecting the history and culture of the OEM, are better able to leverage brand power with customers. And that's really my bottom line here. Despite what you read, our biggest threat isn't electrified, autonomous, or connected cars, or tariffs, or younger buyers. The biggest threat is not taking action, standing still, and becoming a commodity brand or dealer. What differentiates each of us is a strong brand image and a strong customer relationship. It's our responsibility as OEMs to develop game-changing products that bring satisfaction and joy to customers. But it's our shared responsibility to market products responsibly through sound business practices and a customer-friendly manner to build, earn, and maintain trust. Solidifying that foundation is what we must do to meet emerging challenges and win the future of mobility together. Thank you so much for your time and attention this afternoon, and thank you to AIADA and its new chairman, Jason Corder, for this opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Henio. Wonderful. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time out. I know it's a busy time. We're getting you out here early, so how about that? And I want to make sure that I see all of you in May as we have our annual spring fly-in. Thank you so much again. Safe travels.